It is an absolute pleasure and thrill to get the chance to interview Anna Quindlen, the New York Times best-selling author, Pulitzer Prize winner, amazing woman all around, and author of this great new book, Lots of Candles, Plenty of Cake. Anna Quindlen, thank you so much for joining us at iVillage.
Thanks, Kelly.
So it's hard to think there was once a time, right, where there were not moms who blogged. There were no mom bloggers. And you were one of the first women out there to really write about family and motherhood. Was it scary to kind of be one of the first to talk openly about your family in the New York Times?
Honestly, when Abe Rosenthal, who was then the executive editor, cooked up the idea for Life in the 30s and said, just write about what you and your friends are talking about on the telephone, neither of us thought anybody was going to read it. It was in the New York Times. I think we pictured people saying, what is this? And it wasn't until about the third column that suddenly the volume of mail told us that we were undergoing some sort of a sea change in terms of how people were seeing the paper. So I wasn't frightened. After a while, I started to feel a little exposed. When I'd push a stroller, people would stop me as though I was walking a puppy. But it was a great feeling too, and not long ago I had breakfast with a whole group of mommy bloggers, and one of them said to me, we consider you the first mommy blogger, and I considered that a great compliment.
Now, you know, I was mentioning I'm a mom of 2 little ones, so I have not finished your book, right?
I'm amazed you even started my book.
But I can't wait. I relish when they're in bed and I can read it. But there's so many things that I have been struck by in the book. And you said this, you said, sometimes I tell my children, well actually frequently I tell my children that the single most important decision they will make is not where to live or what to do for a living. It's who they will marry. I never thought of it that way. Why do you feel that way?
Oh, because it shapes so much about your life. I mean, first of all, whoever it is you marry may well be the other parent to your kids. What could be more important than to have this job with somebody who you like and respect and who you can count on to have your back? And so much of how we feel about ourselves, male or female, has to do with that kind of bedrock and bulwark of marriage. So I just think it's an enormously important decision, and it's an enormously important decision for your family of origin. I mean, I was telling you before, one of the standards for whether a girlfriend or a boyfriend sticks with our kids is whether the other 2 siblings like that person. That's a very important standard because we do so much together as a family that we have to have someone who embraces us as well.
I love how you described your husband too as the backer in chief.
Right.
He's got your back all the time.
He's very loyal. He's extremely loyal.
That is so great. Well, we have contributors at iVillage. They're called iVoices, and they share videos on issues that matter most to them. And a number of them have done video questions for you, so we'd love to have you answer them. The first comes from Beth Engelman. She's a single mom of 1 from the Chicago area.
I know writing sometimes, or oftentimes, is really a process of self-discovery, and I'm wondering, was there anything really surprising that you found out about yourself writing this book?
Oh, I found out so many things about myself, or more that I put things together. That suddenly, in that way that you're not able to as you're living it, I could see my life whole, as opposed to the scattershot years, the disparate roles, that sort of everything came together. But I think the most overwhelming response I had to the material was to think about how good life is when you get to be the age I am now. I mean, I am the only woman in America crazy enough to mark her 60th birthday by traveling all over the country talking about it. But the truth of the matter is, I think a lot of us find ourselves in a really good place in our lives right now. Our kids are launched, but they're still with us. Our work is great, but we understand that it's not necessarily the be-all and end-all of existence. We have time for our friends, we have time for our spouses. It's a really good moment.
It is, and you know, something else you said in the book too, related to sort of where you are in your life now is looking back to that 22-year-old. I think you said your daughter asked you, what would you tell your 22-year-old self? What was your answer to that?
I said I would tell her she's pretty darn great and not to listen to anybody who says otherwise. I mean, I think one of the hardest things about growing up for women is that we're bombarded with negative messages about ourselves, about how we look, about how we live, about our lives as sexual beings, about our lives as mothers and workers. And the great thing is that when you get to a certain age, you suddenly look around and think, no, I'm okay. But you can't really get that when you're a young woman, and I wish you could.
Right, right. You can't, like you said, you can say it as much as you want, but when you were 22, that message was not going to resonate as it does now.
Exactly.
Not at all. All right, so we have another question. This is from Sharon Rowley. She's a mother of 6.
Can you tell me, what do you think was the toughest part of motherhood? Was it those early years when you were spending all your time changing diapers and getting no sleep? Was it those teen angst years, or was it the teenage years? Because I need to know if the worst is ahead of me or not.
I think more than anything else, it was something that stretched through the preteen and the teen years, and that was making myself get out of their way. I mean, there's such a tendency, such a temptation to kind of micromanage. And to try to massage their characters into some universally acceptable form. And then what you wind up with is nothing. And my kids, I feel like they were born with really distinct personalities. And I was able to push them in the right direction sometimes and pull them in the right direction others. But the best I did for them was when I stepped back and just let them be themselves.
Okay, so this question comes from Christine Candelaria, and I love this. She describes herself as an SAHM. That's a sometimes at-home mom.
Oh, that's good.
Who she says is being raised by her 4 kids, which I love that as well. And here is her question.
Hi Anna. A recent topic we discussed as iVoices was aging. Everything from dyeing our gray hair to getting Botox. And I was wondering, what is your stance on aging, and how do you deal with the signs of getting older?
This entire book is about aging. It's about the fact that I have never dyed my hair. It's about the fact that I do get Botox. But it's also about the fact that we age into being our best selves at some level. One of the most common misconceptions, I think, is that this is a dreadful process. I encountered that over and over again when I was working on the book. I would say to somebody, I'm writing a memoir about aging. Oh, aging. Oh, it's so terrible. And then I would say to them, okay, so your life now is not as good as it was when you were younger. Full stop. And then they would always say, no, that's not true. My life is better now. So that combination of growing into yourself and having success in various roles, but understanding their place, it's just so powerful. And all of that other stuff becomes, secondary. I have gray hair. I have crow's feet. My knees make a noise like Rice Krispies treats when I do squats. But I am more myself than I have ever been in my life, and that makes all the difference.
All right, I want to get to, because it's not just women who contributed here. We have Jim Higley, a single dad of 3 in Chicago, also a cancer survivor, and truly such a loving, loving person.
Hey Anna, this is Jim Higley, one of the iVoices in Chicago. Congratulations on your new book. I actually became a big fan of yours when I first read A Short Guide to a Happy Life. Like you, I'm a writer and often focus on those stories in the nooks and crannies of our days. So my question to you is, are you surprised when your words touch the heart of men?
I'm not surprised, but I'm really pleased. We tend to slot ourselves a little bit more than we should, and I think for a long time I thought of myself as somebody who spoke to women, and then little by little I would hear from guys who would say, hey, don't shut us out. And that was really valuable, because if we're going to change the world, we can't just change it one woman at a time. We've got to change it one person at a time. So I'm always glad when I hear from guys like Jim.
All right, I have to ask you a couple of questions about politics,
Okay.
right? And then we'll wrap up. Have to ask you about this brouhaha following the comment by Hillary Rosen, a Democrat, when she said that Ann Romney, quote, has never worked a day in her life. What do you make about the response and the reaction that that remark has had?
I found it very dispiriting because we all know what Hillary Rosen meant. I have been a full-time stay-at-home mother, but I have been it under very good circumstances. My husband makes a good living, we're prosperous, we had lots of support. What Hillary Rosen was saying was that if Mitt Romney wants to understand what real life is like for so many women, he shouldn't talk to his own wife, who raised 5 boys with a lot of resources. He might want to talk to the woman who's raised 5 boys and has to lock them into her apartment in the projects at night so she can go out and clean office buildings. That's the reality of life in America for lots and lots of moms, and I think it was pretty clear that that's what Hillary Rosen was trying to say.
Pretty clear, and yet it led to this because of, you know, what she said has never worked a day in her life, and has led to questions about, is it the mommy wars again? Do you think the mommy war battle or the mommy wars are continuing in some way, or have not gone away?
I think it's easy for women who are not working outside the home to feel condescended to by those who are, and easy for those who are working outside the home to feel judged by those who are not. But in the last analysis, we women of every stripe have to remember that we're holding up the entire world. We're doing jobs out in the world, and we're doing all the jobs at home, more or less. And really the goal has to be not to judge one another, but to try to move toward a more egalitarian life where guys pick up some of the slack.
Anna Quindlen, it is such an absolute pleasure to get to meet you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Kelly. This was great.
This was really fun. And be sure to check out Anna's new book. Lots of candles, plenty of cake. It is wonderful. And be sure to join Anna when iVillage celebrates Anna's book by hosting a Twitter party. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern, Tuesday night. You can join by using the hashtag Quindlen, tweeting Anna at random, or following at iVillage. And we'll see you then.